Enlightenment era and the post-Enlightenment era. My generation is right on the cusp between the Enlightenment era and the post-Enlightenment. So multitasking is something that comes relatively difficult for people in my generation. And you probably already knew that. We grew up in an era before there were computers. In fact, the biggest technological advance when I was a child was moving from black and white TV to color TV. But it's better than my parents who went from radio to television. So I think that we tend to want things relatively spelled out, and we want things to be clear. My generation has some difficulty dealing with ambiguity. Maybe I do, and I don't think I'm alone. So I think we like things to be relatively set and easily understandable. That's why multitasking is hard, because it's very difficult for us to be able to scatter our attention between lots of different things. And that's the way I am. I'm kind of in some ways I'm a slow thinker. I can think on my feet, but I prefer to be able to think slowly. I like to have my ducks in a row, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I don't think I'm alone. And yet, does my experience define the generation? I doubt it, because like I said, we're on the cusp. So at the same time that we have all of these people like me who like things spelled out and fairly clear, we also have people who are looking for expanded consciousness, and that was what the whole drug culture was about. Especially around things like LSD. So I think we were setting the groundwork for what was going to come later in terms of a generation that was not so nailed down and that was able to do things like multitasking. But we weren't there yet as a generation. We're just kind of confused. We started out very idealistic, by the way. My generation did. That's what the whole anti-war movement was about. That's what the civil rights movement was about. That's what the women's movement was about. They all came out of my generation.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes it has to do with schooling too, because I know when I was going through elementary school, we were very pushed to get our problems solved right away. We had to have our numbers memorized. And when you were in elementary school, were you able to take time? You could. I remember we would have to count by twos, and we'd have a minute to get to 100 or something, and that was how our generation was pushed through elementary school and middle school. So was school a little bit more laid back for you, or?
No, actually, school was pretty intense.
Yeah, intense.
In those days, because we had to do quickly what we had to do, unless you were writing papers or something like that, which required analysis. But certainly around math, they wanted you to be able to recite the multiplication tables.
Okay.
Yeah. So in that regard, it was in terms of basic facts, they wanted them just on the tip of our tongue. But in terms of broader social problems, and maybe you're saying that makes me think about it. That in some ways, we really thought that the anti-war movement was going to make a difference in the world. We really thought that the women's movement was going to make a difference in the civil rights movement. And it has made, all those things have made a difference, but they haven't made as big a difference as we expected. We were really hoping for a world that would be completely transformed, where women were not going to be discriminated against, where African Americans and Latinos and Asians would not be discriminated against, where there wouldn't be color lines, there wouldn't be glass ceilings. We really expected that war might stop, and I think that many of us were disappointed by the fact that that didn't happen. We made some progress, but we didn't completely change the world.